is in itself a complete thing. We have not to search for anything else. We have not to know other things. Just love him. Where else can you get anything bigger, better than this? If you want that you love him more. Want that you please him. There is nothing else to want. Any other want is a poor substitute.
So what happened is that, yes?
Sorry, can you say, you remind me, say what Baba said, the phrase, I am the one, all else is zero, which I feel is a very important. And I wonder whether you could both say something about what...
This is what happened. I began with it, began with the zero-ness of it, because there is none besides him. And how it all got created is because he started playing the game of solitaire. Yeah, he wanted to share his love, the love that is there, the content of that was needed to be shared. So then we came into existence because he is infinite existence. He imagined that, well, here is John. So John came into existence because it carried with it the stamp of existence. It is infinite existence imagining here is John. John comes into existence, you see. That's how it is. But let alone this, what he would say, you were asking me, Martha, he would ask us, do you love me? He would say that to us. Do you love me? We would say, no, we don't love you. Means after having given such explanation of what love is, so how can we say that we love him? So he said, no, we don't love you. Well, one day you'll love me, he'll say. Then time and again he'll ask us, do you love me? No. Do you love me? No. Then there would come a time when he would call us to him and say that I love you. He would tell us to say that I love you, Baba. So we'll say, us means, yeah, no, Mandli. Yeah. So you'd say, come and say, each one say, come, say that I love you, Baba. So we'll say, Baba, I love you, Baba. So he says, kiss me. So we'll go and kiss him. Say that I love you, Baba. So we'll say, I love you, Baba. You have no idea that this seems to be a farcical thing, isn't it? It's a farce. But these little things, he puts life into this, the lifelessness of it, of not loving him. It's he who puts the life. He sows the seed at the time when we say, I love you, Baba. He tells us to say that, I love you, Baba. So he makes it more live. What do you say? How do you express? Please, scholars, come to my aid. What will you say to this sort of thing?
He puts life in the action.
Yeah. It is clear. Yeah. Oh, then it's all right. If it is clear, then it's all right. So he would ask us to do that and say that, seal it with a kiss. So we'd kiss him. It was all just dry. But now we realize how far and how deep it has carried us. Because he wanted us to say it and he gave us that. Gradually we are beginning to love him. Yeah. So, never hesitate. And another thing that we have said, we have come to know is this, that we are prone to all sorts of weaknesses. And it says how weak we are and how is it possible for us to love him, to adore him and all that. He didn't want us to feel so diffident about it all. He says, I love you, that's enough. If you cannot love, don't bother about it. I love you. I am there to love you. Yeah. And then he went further and said, there was a certain person, it's from one of the diaries of the old. It happened in the West. So he must have gone to Myrtle Beach somewhere there or someplace. I think it was New York. So there a certain lady comes there and she stands aloof from him. So Baba calls her. So she stands there. Baba says, I love you. So she is meek and silent. Says, I love you. Baba says, I love you. With a smile, Baba says that. So the woman just breaks down into sobs and says, how can you love me? I am so weak. I am such a wretched person. So he says, mind you not. Don't worry about your weaknesses or your being wretched or anything. You are not wretched, you are not weak. He says, I love you, and because I love you, there is a pool of love within you. So when you find yourself wretched, when you fall in your weaknesses, just have a dip in that pool of love that I have given you and come out fresh and begin to live a new life again, a real life. Time and again have a dip there and refresh yourself, because I have given you that pool of love within you. Yeah. It is there. Whenever you are in need, just have a dip there and come out. So don't feel wretched. And then he would always comfort us by saying, we fall and falter and all that. He says, if you don't fall, if you don't fail me and all that, how will I be able to exercise my infinite compassion? So don't you worry about that. Remember, when you fall, I give you my hand, because I extend my hand and lift you up. Others, what will happen to my infinite compassion? If all were saints, what's the sense of my being here in your midst, you see? So don't you worry about that. All what you have to do, as Mani says, is, he says, all that counts, all that matters, is begin to remember him and then to love him. Yeah. Don't try to harp and brood over your weaknesses or your failings and failures and all that. That will never lead us anywhere. Nothing. We'll on the contrary entangle ourselves all the more, get enmeshed in that. Rise above it. But just scoff at yourself. Yeah.
What Eruch said reminds me of also a line in a ghazal, which is composed by Qawwali singing, and it's always the lover speaking to the beloved, and sometimes when you feel that the beloved is indifferent to his loving him, so then there is a very intimate talk, he complains, he pleads, he berates, he praises, all these things go on to draw the attention, the love of the beloved. So one line, when Baba smiled and looked at us and sort of said, is that so? And the lover once says, he says, no doubt you're the beloved, you the highest. But remember, after all, we lovers play a part. If you had no lovers, how would you be a beloved? And Baba looked a bit guilty, turned around and said, after all, don't belittle me that much. Look towards me once in a while. Where would a beloved be without lovers, huh?
It is so true. I remember somebody having come and told me about what Elizabeth had said, the difference between having seen Meher Baba and having seen others who are the masters. So I can't repeat the words, but the thought is there. But it was so heartwarming and so sublime, the thing is. What Elizabeth had told that woman. So she had told me, of course, but I forget who the person is. So what Elizabeth had said is that the difference between your having come across Meher Baba, having seen him, having visited him, and visiting other masters is that, whereas the other masters, when you leave them after having visited them, they make you how small you are. They make you feel how small you are. But with Meher Baba, there is a world of difference. After visiting him and having gone away from him, you feel how great you are, how big you are. And that was so true. So true.
Also, in that way, it would be, say, this is a small hall, even though today we feel there are many of us around. Even when there's, like in Guru Prasad Hall, when there were so many gathered, all Baba lovers, all just wanting to be with him, to spend time with him, there'd be a sea of faces before him, where Baba was sitting silently, simply in a white sadra. And the others were talking, moving, joyous, being with Baba. And yet, each one would go away with the feeling that Baba had paid special attention to me, that it was something between Baba and me, and that would apply to each one. And the other day, telling them stories of how even when Baba seemed not to be looking, even at times when he seemed indifferent, even when he seemed busy, he was giving to each one so specially. And the other day, Kumar Babu said something, Eruch, which something I hadn't known. He said the situation was as I have described it right now, at a darshan time, and Baba was seated way at the end of the hall, and there's all these lovers before him of every vocation and kind, and just all gotten there with one pointed wish to be with him, the beloved, just to spend some time with him. And they say at the end, quite at the far end, one of the lovers was probably opened his mouth to join in the singing, because there was a singing bhajans going on or something, but as he opened his mouth, a little fly got in, and he said he coughed it up, and but then his mind was in the thing. He said after a while he must have thought, did the fly go away or did I swallow it? He did that. Baba from this end looks up and says, don't worry, with my own eyes I saw the fly away. And the man is stunned, I tell you. And nothing is too small, no one is too little for Baba's love, for Baba's care and attention.
Yeah, you go like that.
Up till now, I hadn't realized how blessed the fly was.
That trick,
His
that
mother fell on the
was,
fly.
we had no questions, those who were with Baba. I'm talking about myself and my companions with me, with Baba. No questions of why this or what that. Even when Baba told us to do something, never even a thought occurred, why, And in fact, some of the answers to some things that Baba asked us to do at the time, the answers have been received now, years after Baba dropped his body. But there would be constantly one question coming in my mind, and which was, when a fly sat on Baba, when he was sitting on the bed or seated on the chair, and we would say, why? Why this fly? There are billions of flies in the world. Why is this fly so blessed? Why this pet? Why this dog? Why this bird? Why this vegetable? So is there a God luck too? Is there a chance? I mean, that to me, that is grace. Whim plus grace. Only grace would make that possible for all. And of course, whether are pets, whether birds that he kept, and animals, we have had pets all along our life with Baba. All kinds of pets, all manner of pets, and never without pets. Even in the new life, what would you call them but pets? The camel, the cows, the donkeys, but even apart, all along in our life with Baba, there have always been pets. Snake, birds, mongoose, ghosts, a deer, a sweet little deer with little brass caps on his horns that loved, of all things, cooked pakoras. It's done with chilies and onions, and it's my favorite too. As a matter of fact, it was Baba's favorite too. So while Mera or Naja would be cooking in the little kitchen in Mehrabad, Lily, the deer, would be standing in front, waiting for it to be ready. And I would be standing there too, waiting for it to be ready. So we were somehow rivals in a sense. Then there was the peacock, there were lambs, rabbits, every conceivable thing. So do you think then that just those animals were lucky? Not really. They were the most lucky, the most fortunate. But then Baba always used models through which his blessings are not limited. It does not go to a few or one and stop there. That one would get the most, undoubtedly, because of the link connection. But through that, it reaches out far to many, many, and eventually to the whole universe. So it was those animals, it was for all animals. It was for people, it was for all people. When he gave something to some poor in the village, when he gave money, when he gave blankets, when he gave clothes, do you think he was a missionary? Do you think it was really meant simply to cover their bodies with these clothes? How long would that last? What would it serve? No, that was an outer wrapping, an instrument, a means through which the real was given. His real unseen blessing. But for our eyes, outwardly what we saw was that. So Baba is for all. He has not only come for one, but for all. For instance, it was not just those pets and animals he kept. Wherever we went with Baba in the blue bus, we traveled all over India with Baba, all places. And outwardly he would take pains to make it seem very natural, very simple. So whenever we stopped at one place, because we had our outlets, as you might call, would be games with Baba, outings or sightseeing. We thought, Baba's taking us outing. Baba's going to take us to the museum. Or Baba's going to take us to the zoo. Almost in every place that we visited, Baba has taken us to the zoo. And we thought it was for us to enjoy. We realized later it is not. It is for each animal that is in the zoo. Because Baba would go so speedily through the zoo. We had to run after him, run and catch up. We stopped by one cage to look at this hippopotamus or to see the lion or the peacock. Then Baba would be way ahead, turn around, clap, hurry up. What are you doing? So we would run, but as we ran and others were run trotting behind us, we'd call back and say, Margaret, don't forget to look to the right. Beautiful peacock. And Katie would say, Manny, look to the left. A nice hippopotamus. And, as we were running. So it wasn't what was outwardly appearing to be, that it was, the women were just to enjoy looking at the zoo. It would be many. Baba did not have just one purpose or one reason for any one act that he did. That limitation is ours. We can do one thing, and the action and the reaction, the purpose would apply to that one thing. Baba is like throwing a stone and 20 birds would fly away from the tree. Baba's covers much more, what we can see and what we cannot see. So no, it all started from, I didn't mean to talk so much, but it all started from the fact, why is the good fortune then just, why this fly? Many a time when Baba was resting in the afternoon and a fly would come and sit, of course we would shoo it off, but we would see the fly and I'd say, why? Why this? Then that connection of that fly, or Baba would pick up a stone and he would throw, just while walking, just very casually. Why that stone? But then look, here we have been bottling water with which Baba's feet had been washed. That was very precious. We would keep bottles of the water, not for ourselves. We thought we had Baba always, for all time. This was, forever. But lovers who would come, can you give us some water that washed Baba's feet? We would give. And then I realized that Baba does not even limit that. When we were traveling, Baba puts his hand in the river Narmada, which flows, which goes back into the ocean. When in Myrtle Beach, Baba puts his feet into the ocean itself. Baba treads, wherever we have traveled, Baba has gotten down and walked, and it's limitless. I remember the time when we were having photographs ordered from America through Beryl Williams. This particular photo, Baba had started that. So he wanted the photos to go out from here to his lovers in the West, and it was done through Beryl. So the list would come as to this one wants such and such a photo, Hillary wants such and such a photo, Roy wants such and such a photo, and all these things, you see. So I would take them to Baba after my brother Behram had done them, and Baba would touch each picture. Later when Baba was not well, I thought, why bother Baba? But no, Baba wanted them touched. He would say, bring them over. So at the very latter period, I remember coming into the hall with this box full of these photos, standing far away, thinking, not bothering Baba. Anyway, Baba seemed busy. Turn round. What? Oh, I said, it's all right, Baba. It's just these photos but it's all right. I will send them like that. Bring them over. So I brought the box over. Instead of touching each picture, Baba just touched the top. He put his hand on the box. Now that only on the first picture. And so I simply said, Baba, I tell them that each picture is blessed by Baba as usual. That is all right, Baba? Baba says, certainly. He made a face that was so emphatic. And then he said, even if I put a finger on the top, not only is all that touched through, but he pointed to this earth floor, right through, possibly at the other end of the earth, deeper than all the wells we're drilling. It's that. But you see, we are so small, we cannot take in the magnitude of Baba, his love, his grace.
Wow.
Talk. Before I get on to another subject. Jai Baba Judy.
Eruch,
Yes.
would you like to feel
Eruch, you remember Paul, the drummer, whom you used to make
yes.
sit next to you?
Yeah. Yes.
You are Baba's companion, and you're the companion of Baba's companions. Would you say something to us about companionship with Baba and companionship with each other?
What's this?
Well, this word companion and all that, first Baba made us aware of the word companion was at the time
Nice.
when we were setting out for new life. There was no question of being companions before that. I am myself having each individual, you see, this lane to the beloved is such that it cannot brook any companionship or any friendship or any relationship or anything. It's for single file. Every individual is his own for the beloved. The lover's lane, as Baba calls it, is so narrow that only one person can enter into it at a time. So we had no question. Well, Baba called us, we are there with him and all that. We were living just a life without giving a thought to being companions or this or that. We had no thought. Then he said that, well, in new life, before setting out for new life, he says, we will be all companions. Forget about my being the ancient one, my being what I am. You may hold me in your heart, whatever you want to wish or think about me, or your feelings are there, but never express them. All that will be outwardly is that we will be companions to one another. That's what he said. That's how we came to know the word companion in the beginning. That was the beginning in 1949. Before that, we never given a thought to companionship. And well, we were there as companions, and he would time and again bring home to us that, well, I am your companion, so I must help you. So the question of help came in, the word help came there, you see, at the time, with companionship. And then the companionship became so thick that, well, Baba would not deem himself too low to sweep the floor or anything. The companionship was so thick that through thick and thin he would stick to us, you see. He would be sweeping the floor, he would be carrying stones, he would be carrying mud and earth and all sorts of things. He would be doing as we would do. That is companionship, you see. And he would go to the extent in new life to remind us of companionship, which should be so thick and so deep that he had set some rules that we should not put up long faces and all that sort of thing. And apart from that, he says, well, we should not express cruelty, we shouldn't express anger. So if then I will remind you, he says, as a companion. But then he also ordered us that as companions you should remind me also when I express anger or cruelty and all that. You follow?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it was. So
Just anger and cruelty?
Anything that were mentioned there, anger, cruelty, or lack of companionship, all that, yeah. I forget now. What
Backbiting.
else? Backbiting, jealousy, or anything of the sort. Whatever it is. All these things, you see, the negative side of the positive. The negative side of the positive. Yeah. So that's how it was. So that's how I can tell you about are being his companions and he being our companions. Then he said that a time now has come when I had given you company in my physical form. A time will come when you should give me company. Then he said that make me your constant companion. That was much before New Life. He had said that in a message. So he remains as a constant companion all the time. He was with us as a constant companion. Now the time has come when we should be constant companion of Baba. Yeah. So without that it's not possible. So again it all boils down to our remembering him, bringing him into our mind, into our consciousness, into our awareness, and keeping his presence alive. Yeah. That's all. That what else? I don't know. I can't remember anything more than that.
So you think this is another part of his question was that about us being each other's companions now, and this is a
Of
good
course.
example of companionship among
Yes.
ourselves, to remind each other,
Yeah.
speak
I
out,
speak
and
out.
say these things,
Yeah.
and help each other not to.
Being companions. But instead of that, you see, apart from what we deem to be doing right or wrong or anything of the sort, all that is needed is to just paying heed to what we should do or what we should not do. The most important thing, the first thing that we must do is to be determined to be his. Yeah. So once we are determined to be his, then all the things are taken into account, you see, and they are straightened out. Most important is to be, feel, and first of all to think, then to feel, and then to be determined to be his. Under all sorts of circumstances, through thick and thin. Not when he has favored us with a good job, or he has favored us with a beautiful wife, or he has favored us with happy and good parents, that we are determined to be his. Or, no, in our adversities and in our great joys, we remain his. We are his. Whether we are strong, well, then we call ourselves, we are his, we are Baba lovers. And when we fail and when we are weak, so, well, I don't know whether I am a Baba liker or a lover, you see. Has nothing to do with Baba lover or Baba liker or this or that, you see. We just remain to be his. A wayward child. After all, he is a wayward child. But in his heart of heart, he knows that he is my parent. After all, I belong to him. He is my father. His father is a good person, a goodly person, you see. So in his heart of heart, he knows that he is my father. He has that conviction. There is no need to bring conviction, but he knows it. That's how it is. So that sort of determination to be his. Whatever we are, strong or weak or anything, after all, we are his. And we should try to, the trust that he puts in us. We should try to not to let him down. Yeah. It's but natural. There's no need to say such things. It is but natural. Which parent is there who would want his child to let him down? Is there any parent in the world? No. It's for us. He puts the trust in us. He sends us out. He allows us to live as we want to live. But he has the trust that after all, he is my child. He will not let me down. And that's how it is. So even after having failed him or anything, that determination to be his should be there. And you have to become that.
When did the distinction between the lover and the seeker begin to come clear in your mind? That seeking is a different thing.
Yeah, seeking is quite different. It's terrible. Who would want to be a seeker, you see? And seek what? Seek what? That what you are? Yeah. As Baba himself had said, it became more predominant in our thoughts when he started telling us this sort of things. How will you find God? You follow that thing, that stock thing that is there. I have been using it often. Have you heard that? Baba said that, all the libraries of the world will need a change, because they are all filled with books which tell you how to seek Him. You have heard that?
I don't believe so.
You haven't. So he says, how can you find something which is never lost? How can you find Him out? All that is needed is not to find God, not to seek Him, but not to find Him, but to lose yourself. It's you who are coming in the way of your own reality. You are the product of non-existence, as I told you in the beginning, as Baba told us. He just made it. He says, make believe. He says, this is Mata. But you are not Mata. There is none besides Him. You see. You follow? So then it's there. But what happened is that it had the imagination was of the one who was infinite existence. So it carried the stamp of existence, and even that imagining created Martha there, you see. And you think that I am Martha, and I am Eruch, and I am this, and I am that, you see. We are not existing at all. So this non-existence, this pseudo-existence, the mask that is there, if it is dropped, then there is nothing. It's the reality there. So what is needed is to lose ourselves. That is what we are to strive. And losing ourselves, if that you call seeking, that is wonderful. But no, seeker always tries to find out, get experience, get power, and this and that, you see. He wants to meet challenges. But one who has dared to lose himself, then there is the question of effacement. There is a process called effacement, as Baba says, true effacement. So for that you have to become the dust at his feet. For a seeker, you have to be on a pedestal, wear robes, and do this and do that, and have tongs in your hands, and bells and wheels, and all that sort of thing. This reminds me of a very funny, humorous story, There was a seeker there. And the seeker, naturally, when he wants to seek truth, so he has to strive for it. Seeking needs striving. All the challenges have to be met with. So he's doing all sorts of things, He's trying to sit at one spot. He's adamant. He's stubborn about it, about trying to seek. So what happens? He sits at one spot for years together. 12, 14 years have passed by, and he's sitting there in perfect austerity and just is there. At the back of his mind is to seek power, seek something which is not experienced by anybody but by himself. Power he wants to gain. He wants to bless people and cure people and do this and do that. So he's sitting there with that thought. He's there all the time for 14 years. It's a good thought. Nobody denies that. So then, after 14 years, it seemed that the one who takes care of us, that someone, is pleased with his austerity. So the voice is heard. It says, well, I'm well pleased. What is it that you want? So he says, what may I say? I have passed 14 long years awaiting your justice. So the voice says, oh, you want me to dispense justice. My divine justice demands that you have been a burden on this particular spot, on the stone, for 14 years. Take that stone on your head and let it be a burden to you. That's how it is.
Got rocks in his head.
Yeah. So that is the difference between effacement and seek.
So there's no grace with seeking then?
there is grace also, but there is this humor also in this. He says, all right, let it be so. He has strived most, all right, have it. Give it. Just as Jesus' story I told you about the three wise men who wanted the power, the word that would, with the command, the blind would see and this and that. They pestered him with that. There were people around Jesus who had seen these miracles and all that. So they were following him. They were wise people, so-called wise. And so it's wonderful that just a word and he cures the blind, he raises the dead, he cures the lame and sick. So why can't we be of use to this humanity? And why he has to, poor feeble person like Jesus, has to go from one town to another and to villages and deserts and all that. We can spread out like that if he were to part with his word to us. Why can't we do that? So they try to serve him meekly and all that. And but what? With what motive? What motive? The motive counts. In effacement there is no motive. In effacement is just giving in. You follow? In seeking there is all these things. So what happens is that there is that motive. So they are trying to serve him and please him all the more, and the best way they could do and all that. And then eventually they let out the secret. They begged of him to give. Thank you, sir. So they said to him, Lord, we have been following you for so many months now, and we have been serving you. Why? Why do you tire yourself like that? Why not impart that word which will give us the power and on your behalf do all the healing? So Jesus had a hearty laugh, because this healing doesn't mean that anybody who is sick to be healed. Yeah, it has some deep meaning. So he says, of what use will that be to you? He says, no, we want it, so that will save your botheration, your trouble and all. We three of us would go out and spread out and do all this for you. He says, no. He says, don't you bother about that. It's nothing to do with you. He says, no, they insisted. To cut the story short, eventually they persisted, insisted, and you know how when a beggar comes to the door and a person is getting tired of the begging, he throws the thing out, all right, go away from here. So he says, all right. So he took them aside and he gave them the word, whatever it was, whatever he must have said to them. They were very happy that eventually they got what they wanted. They went. So with that word of power, they could do anything in the world, as Jesus would do. So they went out and they parted company. No more now. The motive was there to get something from him. They received and they finished. They went away. So when they are leaving, they left. So they go by themselves. So when they go, after a day's or 2 days journey, they come across in the desert. They were in the desert at the time. So they come across heap of bones there. The three of them are together now. All the three wise men look at the bones. Each one gets the thought. Same thought. But how about trying it here before we go to the town? So they all stand and they then compare their own thoughts. They says, yeah, so let us try. So they all stand there in the name of the Lord, and whatever the mumbo jumbo was there, they said that. And soon enough, you see, they see all the bones gathering themselves together, aligning themselves, become a huge skeleton. And very soon the skeleton is clothed with flesh and all that, and with fur, and becomes a ferocious animal. And before they know, it was so hungry that it pounced upon the three of them and ate them. That is the word. So, by grace is there. But of what avail is that?
The word must have been soups on.
Yeah. So that's how it is. But in some cases there is also a far-reaching grace which also helps others, instead of this disastrous grace. Yeah. He is the Lord, and grace, you don't merit to have grace. Grace is flowing. Lord's wish means what? There, yeah. Whether you deserve it or not is immaterial. Otherwise it won't be grace. If you merit anything and then if you deserve anything and He gives you, can you call it a grace? No. It's not a grace. Grace is without any merits. There's a nice fine story about the grace of the Lord. Where is my cousin? My cousin is not here today. Sam's story, do you recall that story? About the drunkard, young man?
Yeah, I don't remember the details.
Bill.
I remember reading it to you, but
Well, this is the story. If I remember right, I'll be able to repeat it. If I falter, well, be indulgent. So, a long time ago we came across this story. It had happened, it's a Sufi story. There was a Sufi master. So he was going through a street and he finds a young man, had a drunkard, an alcoholic. So he was lying in the gutter there. So the Sufi master took pity on him and he brought him home. He was not aware of his deeds or actions. He was so drunk. So he was young, energetic, healthy and all that. He brought him home, bathed him and all that, and clothed him and fed him and begged for the Lord's forgiveness and compassion and all that. So then what happened? Then
could you tell the story much better?
when you are in India, you are all right. When you go back to Australia, you forget everything, you know. So what happened is that the young man was there in the house. After a day or two, he was there. He had become very meek and just remained there. Another saintly person comes to the house of this master, Sufi master, after a day. And of course they greet each other and all that. And then his eyes fall on this young man who is sitting there quietly. And the saintly person sees something in this young man, something very sublime and divine. So he asks, I forget the story. So he asks this master and says, who is this person? So he says, the person is a young man. I found him there near the gutter there, and I brought him and clothed him and fed him, and he's here. He was drunk. And he says, but he seems to be so changed in a day's time. Says, well, do you think any change has taken place in him? Says, yeah. To me, he appears to be some divine personality. So what had happened was he begged the Lord for His grace to descend on this wretched person, you know. So, intercession of a master, his prayers are heard, and the grace descended on the young man, which the saintly person could recognize. And he could not believe that he was a drunk and all that. So he goes close to him. The stink of liquor was still there through his mouth when he put him question. So although he was drenched in liquor, he was abnormal, so to say, in his habits, and yet the grace can descend and make him straight. So there is no question of merit or anything of the sort, but there must be somebody to intercede.
There has to be someone to be close to, like.
Yeah.
You don't have the good qualities, and it's probably good to hang around the right people.
Choose good companions.
Yeah, choose good companions. But Baba would always prefer a person who is natural, normal person. Not necessarily. He wouldn't have his eyes set only on saintly people, pious people or anything of the sort. But average person. He would love an average man.